What is up, you awesome kisters? It is CistReactZ. Before this video starts off, guys, gotta let you guys know that there is a new CistReactZ shirt that is on Teespring right now. Make sure you guys go check it out. Click the link in the description to get 40% off on your purchase. So yeah, and it is made by Carson V from Twitter, so make sure you guys follow him if you had one. Peace out.
Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level.
What is up, you awesome kisters? It is CistReactZ, guys, and welcome to FNAF The Twisted Ones book. So yeah, guys, if you didn't watch the beginning of the video, I said if we can reach 1,000 likes on this video, I will start a hardcover Twisted Ones giveaway. So yeah, guys. Anyway, here we go. So yeah, guys, Twisted Ones. Oh my God, hyped. Chapter 1. Okay, don't trust your eyes. Oh. Whoops. I'm sorry, too hyped. Don't trust your eyes. Dr. Treadwell walked back and forth across the platform at the front of the auditorium. Her steps were slow and even almost hypnotic. Your eyes deceive you every day, filling in the blanks for you in a world sensory overload. So apparently I think Charlie's like seeing a doctor now, since like all the other events from Silver Eyes. An image of dizzying geometric detail lit up the canvas screen behind her. When I say sensory overload, I mean that quite literally. At every moment, your senses are receiving far more information. Dang, I see like Scott's getting like then they can all process at once, and your mind is forced to choose which signals to pay attention to. It does that based on your experiences and your expectation of what is normal. The things we are familiar with are things we care. Sorry, my mouse was in the way. Are things we can, for the most part, ignore. We see this most easily with the olfactory fatigue. Your nose ceases to perceive a smell when you've been around it for a while. You may be quite thankful for this phenomenon, depending on the habits of your roommate. The class tittered doubtfully, then became quiet as the images of another multicolored design flashed on the screen. The professor gave a hint of smile and continued. Your mind creates motion. Yeah, so this is like some type of class or something that someone or the main character is attending to, so things are getting spicy, building up. Your mind creates motion when there is none. It fills in colors and trajectories based on what you've seen before and calculates what you should be seeing now. Another image flashed on the overhead screen. If your mind didn't do this, then simply walk outside and seeing a tree would consume all your mental energy, leaving no resources to do anything else. In order to function in the world, your mind fills in the spaces of that tree with its own leaves and branches, 100 pencils scribbled at all once, filling in the lecture hall with the sound of scurrying mice. It is why you enter a house for the first time you experience a moment of dizziness. Your mind is taking in more than usual. It's drawing a floor plan, creating the palette of colors, and saving an inventory of images to draw on later. So you don't have to go through the exhausting intake every single time the next time you enter the house. You'll already know where you are. Charlie! said an urgent voice. I'm sorry, Charlie! An urgent voice whispered her name inches from her ear. So yeah, Charlie's back! Oh, snap, Charlie, okay! So Charlie's taking like a psychiatric class. Charlie kept writing. She was staring straight ahead at the display at the front of the lecture hall. As Dr. Treadwell went on, she paced faster, occasionally flinging an arm toward the screen to illustrate her point. Her words seemed to be falling behind as her mind raced on ahead. Charlie had realized by the second day of classes that a professor sometimes broke off in the middle of one sentence, only to finish an entirely different one. It was like she skimmed the text in her head, reading out a few words here and there. Most of the students in her robotics class found it maddening, but Charlie liked it. Jeez, that is, man. It made the lesson kind of like doing a puzzle. The screen flashed again, displaying an assortment of mechanical parts and robotics class. I'm such an idiot. The screen flashed again, displaying an assortment of mechanical parts and a diagram of an eye. This is what you must recreate. Dr. Treadwell stepped back from the image, turning to look at it with the class. Basic artificial intelligence is all about sensory control. Oh. So he used the eyes function and the minds as example and stuff. I'm so stupid. I feel dumb. Dr. Trotwell stepped back from the image, turning to look at it with the class. Basic artificial intelligence is all about sensory control. You won't be dealing with a mind that can filter things out for itself. You must design programs that recognize basic shapes while discarding unimportant information. You must do it for the robot with your own mind, what your own mind does for you. Create a simplified and organized assembly of information based on what's relevant. Let's start by looking at some examples of basic shape recognition. Charlie! The voice hissed again, and she waved her pencil impatiently at the figure peering over her shoulder. Her friend, Artie, trying to shoo him away. The gesture cost her a moment, put her half a step behind the professor. She hurried to catch up, anxious not to miss a single line. The paper in front of her was covered in formulas, notes in the margins, sketches and diagrams. She wanted to get everything down at once. Now, I think Charlie, now thinking about this, Charlie's like going to create her own animatronic like her father did, and she's going to create animatronics like her father did, like it was stated in the last book. So maybe Charlie was the one who created this mysterious new wolf animatronic. Because it did look half messed up and half right, so I'm just saying. She hurried to catch up, anxious not to miss a single line. The paper in front of her was covered in formulas, notes in the margins, sketches, and diagrams. She wanted to get everything down at once, not just the math, but all the things it made her think of. If she could tie the new facts to things she already knew, she retained it much more easily. She felt hungry for it, alert, watching for new tidbits of information like a dog under the dinner table. A boy near the front raised his hand to ask a question. Charlie felt a brief flare of impatience. Now the whole class would have to stop while Treadwell went back to explain a simple concept. I mean, maybe it wasn't that simple? Charlie let her mind wander, sketching absently in the margins of her notebook. John would be here, and she glanced rested. Sorry, guys, it's like 2 a.m. and I'm trying to read. She glanced restlessly at her watch. An hour, I told him. I told him maybe someday we'll see each other again. I guess it's someday. He called out. Okay, good. He called out of the blue. I'm just going to be passing through, he said. And Charlie hadn't bothered to ask how he knew where she was. That's weird. Of course he would know. There was no reason not to meet him. And she found herself alternately excited and filled with dread. Now she was absolutely sketched rectangular forms along the bottom of her note paper. Her stomach jumped, a little spasm of nerves. It felt like a lifetime since she saw him. Sometimes it felt like she'd seen him yesterday, as if the last year hadn't passed, like the last book. Oh, snap. But of course it had, and everything had changed for Charlie once again. That May, the night of her 18th birthday, the dreams had begun. Oh, snap, here we go. Charlie was long accustomed to the nightmares, but the worst moments of her past forced up like bile into twisted? I see what they did there. Twisted versions of memories already too terrible to recall. She shoved those dreams into the back of her mind in the morning and sealed them away, knowing they would only breach it when night fell again. These dreams were different. When she woke up, she was physically exhausted. Not just drained, but sore. Her muscles weak. Her hands were stiff and aching, like they'd been clenched into fists for hours. These new dreams didn't come every night, but when they did, they interrupted her. Like the wolf can. They interrupted her regular nightmares and took them over. It doesn't matter if she was running and screaming for her life or wandering aimlessly. So, the wolf was created through her nightmares then. Because the wolf, you guys know, in the wolf teaser, the wolf, does this distorting thing. Anyway, they interrupted her nightmares and took them over. It didn't matter if she was running and screaming for her life or wandering aimlessly through a dull mishmash of various places she'd been all week. Suddenly, from nowhere, she would sense him. Sammy, her lost twin brother, was near. Oh, snap. She knew he was present the same way she knew that same way she knew. Okay, I was reading that right. It's the same way she knew that she was present. And whatever the dream was, it dropped away. People, places, delight, and sound. Now she was searching for him in the darkness, calling for his name. He never answered. She would drop to her hands and knees, feeling her way through the dark, letting her presence guide her until she came into a barrier. It was smooth and cold, metal, like a robot. She could see it, but she hit it hard with one fist, and it echoed. "Sammy!" she would call, hitting harder. She stood, reaching up to see if she could scale the slick surface, but it stretched up far above her head. She beat her fist against the barricade until they hurt. She screamed her brother's name until her throat was raw, until she fell to the floor and leaned on the solid metal, pressing her cheek to its cool surface and hoping for a whisper from the other side. He was there, she knew it, as surely as he were a part of herself. She knew in those dreams that he was present. Worse, when she was awake, she knew he was not there. In August, Charlie and Aunt Jen had their first fight. Oh, snap. They had been too distant to really argue. Charlie had never felt the need to rebel, but because of Jen, who had no real authority, and Jen never took anything Charlie did personally. Never tried to stop her from doing anything as long as she were safe. The day Charlie moved in with her at the age of 7, Aunt Jen had told her plainly that she was not a replacement for Charlie's parents. By now, Charlie was old enough to understand that Jen meant it as a gesture of respect, a way to assure Charlie that her father wouldn't be forgotten, that she would always be his child. But at the time, it always seemed like an admonishment. Admonishment? Yeah, admonishment. Okay. Guys, I can't read right now. Don't expect parenting. Don't expect love. Dang. And so Charlie hadn't. Jen had never failed to care for Charlie. Charlie had never wanted for food or clothing. And Jen had taught her to cook, to take care of the house, to manage her money, and to fix her own car. You have to be in it. You have to be independent, Charlie. You have to know how to take care of yourself. You have to know how to be stronger than she cut off. But Charlie knew how that sentence ended. Than your father. Dang, son! It's got deep. Charlie shook her head, trying to jerk herself free from her own thoughts. "What's wrong?" Artie said next to her. "Nothing," she whispered. She ran her... Dang, I gotta read with some expression, you know. She ran her pencil again and again over the same lines. Up, down, over, the graphite wearing thicker and thicker. Charlie had told Jen that she was going back to Hurricane, and Jen's face turned stony, her skin paling. "Why would you want to do that?" she asked with a dangerous calm in her voice. Charlie's heart beat faster and faster, because that's where I lost him. Because I need him more than I need you. The thought of returning had been nagging at her for months, growing stronger with each passing week. "Why did you return? Why?" One morning, she awoke, and the choice was made. Final sitting in her mind with a solid weight. Jessica's going to college at St. George, she told her aunt. She's starting the summer semester, so I can stay with her while I'm there. I want to see the house again. There's still so much I don't understand. It just feels important. She finished weakly, faltering as Jen's eyes dark blue like marble fixed on her. Jen didn't answer for a long moment. Then she simply said, "No." Oh, snap, she ain't let... Yeah, I wouldn't let her go either, given what just happened. Why not? Charlie might have once half said, "You let me go before, but after what happened the last year when she and Jessica and the others went back to Freddy's and discovered the horrifying truth behind the murders in her father's old pizzeria, things had changed between them. Charlie had changed. Now she met Jen's gaze. Now she met Jen's gaze, determined. I'm going. Oh, snap, they about to fight. Anyway, I'm going, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Then everything exploded. Charlie didn't know which of them started shouting first, but she screamed until her throat was fiery and sore, hurling at her aunt every pain she had ever inflicted, every hurt she had failed to prevent. Jen shouted back that she was only ever meant to care for Charlie, that she had always done her best, flinging reassuring words that somehow dripped like poison. "I'm leaving!" Charlie screamed with finality. I mean, I would read with so much more expression, but I need water to care for my throat. Sorry, y'all. She started for the door, but Jen grabbed her arm, yanking her violently back. Charlie stumbled, almost falling, before she caught herself on the kitchen table, and Jen let her hand drop with a shocked expression. There was a silence, and then Charlie left. She packed her bag, feeling as if she somehow diverged from reality into almost an impossible parallel world. Then she got her car and drove away. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Eek. Her friends here were not close friends. There was no one she'd owed an explanation. I mean, she right. When Charlie got to Hurricane, she intended to go straight to her father's house to stay there for the next few days until Jessica arrived on campus. But as she reached the city limits, something stopped her. I can't. She thought, I can't ever go back. She turned the car around and drove straight back to St. George and slept in her car for a week. Christ! It was only after Charlie knocked and Jessica opened the door with a startled expression that Charlie realized that she never actually mentioned her plans to Jessica, on whom they all depended. She told her everything, and Jessica hesitantly offered to let her stay. Charlie had slept on the floor for the rest of the summer, and as the fall semester approached, Jessica didn't ask her to leave. And it's nice to have someone who knows me here, she had said, and uncharacteristically hugged Charlie. And uncharacteristically, Charlie hugged her. God. Charlie had never cared about high school. She never paid much attention in her classes, but A's and B's came easily for her. Wish I was her. She had never really thought about liking or disliking her subjects, though sometimes one teacher or another would make her feel a spark of interest for a year. Charlie hadn't thought much beyond the end of the summer, but as she idly flipped through Jessica's course catalog and saw advanced courses in robotics, something clicked in place. St. George was among the colleges she had been accepted into earlier that year, though she hadn't intended to go to any of them. Now, however, she went to the administrative office and pleaded her case until she was allowed to enroll, despite having missed the deadline by months. There's still so much I don't understand. Charlie wanted to learn, and the things she wanted to learn were very specific. Of course, they were things she had to learn before a robotics course would make any sense at all. Math had always been straightforward, functional, sort of like a game to Charlie. You did the thing you were supposed to do and got an answer. But it hadn't never been a very interesting game. True that. It was fun to learn something new, but then you had to keep doing it for weeks and months, bored out of your skull. That was high school. But in her first calculus class, something had happened. It was as if she'd been laying bricks for years, forced to work slowly, seeing nothing but her mortar and her trowel. Then suddenly someone pulled her back a few steps and said, "Here, look, you've been building this castle. Go play inside." And that's all for today, Professor Treadwell said at last. Charlie looked down at her paper, realizing she had never stopped moving her pencil. She had worn dark lines right through the page, and drawn on the desk. She rubbed the marks half-heartedly with her sleeve, then opened her binder to put away the notes. Artie poked his head over her shoulder, and she closed it hastily, but he had already gotten a good look. "What is that? A secret code? Abstract art? Dang, this boy is nosy!" "It's just math," Charlie said a little curtly, and put the notebook in her bag. Artie was cute in a goofy way. He had a pleasant face, dark eyes, and curly brown hair. Sounds like something else to me. That seemed to have a life of its own. He was in 3 of her 4 classes. That must be annoying. It had been following her around since the beginning of the semester, like a stray duckling. To her surprise, Charlie found that she didn't mind it. Okay, then. As Charlie left the auditorium, Artie took up his now accustomed place at her side. "So, did you..." It sounds so weird. Man, watch, he's an animatronic, bro. That's gonna be the plot twist. How much I want to bet. "So, did you decide about the project?" he asked. "Project?" Charlie vaguely remembered something about a project he wanted to do together. He gave a little nod, waiting for her to catch up. "Remember? We have to design an experiment for chem. I thought we would do the work together, with your brains and my looks." He trailed off, grinning. "Yeah, that sounds... I have to go meet someone." She interrupted herself. "You never meet anyone," he said, surprised, blushing bright red as soon as the words were out of his mouth. I didn't mean it in that way. How do you know that? Anyway, I didn't mean it that way. This man's giving me vibes, bro. It's David in a costume, bro. He's not I didn't mean it that way. Not that it's any of my business, but who is it? He gave a broad smile. John, Charlie said without elaboration. Artie looked crestfallen for a moment, but recovered quickly. Of course, yeah, John. Great guy, he said teasingly. He raised his eyebrows, prompting for details, but she gave none. I didn't know you were that you had a... That's cool. Artie's face took a look of careful neutrality. Charlie looked at him oddly. She hadn't meant to imply that she and John were a couple, but she didn't know how to correct him. She couldn't explain who John was to her without telling Artie far more than she wanted him to know. They walked in silence for a minute across the main quad, a small grassy square surrounded by brick and concrete buildings. So is John from your hometown? Artie asked at last. My hometown is 30 minutes away. This place is basically just an extension of it, Charlie said. But yeah, he's from Hurricane. Artie hesitated, then leaned in closer to her. Oh my God, you already know what he's trying to do. Glancing around as if someone might be listening. I always meant to ask you. Charlie looked at him wearily. Don't ask about it. I'm sure people ask you about it all the time, but come on, you can't blame me for being curious. The stuff about the murder... Oh, he's pressing too hard. You can't blame me for being curious. The stuff about the murders, it's like an urban legend around here. I mean, not just around here, everywhere. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza... Stop. Charlie's face was suddenly immobile. She felt as if moving it, making any expression at all, would require an arcane skill that she no longer possessed. Artie's face had changed too. His easy smile drained away. He almost looked frightened. I probably would be too. Charlie bit the inside of her lip, willing her mouth to move. I was just a kid when all that happened, she said quietly. Artie nodded quick and skittish. Charlie made her face move into a smile. I have to go meet Jessica, she lied. I have to get away from you. Thank you, Charlie. Artie nodded his head again like a bobblehead doll. She turned and walked away toward the dorm, not looking back. Charlie blinked into the sunlight. Flashes of what happened last year at Freddy's were batting her. Snatches of memory, plucking at her clothing with cold iron fingers. The hook above, poised to strike, no escape. A figure looming behind the stage, red matted fur, foxy, barely concealing the metal bones of a murderous creature. Kneeling in the pitch dark on the cold tile floor of the bathroom, and then the giant, hard plastic eye glaring through the crack in the heart of lifeless breath on her face, and the other older memory, the thought that made her ache in ways for which she had no words, sorrow filling her as if it had been wrought into her very bones. She and Sammy, her other self, her twin brother, were playing their quiet games in the familiar warmth of the costume closet. Then the figure appeared in the doorway looking down at them. Then Sammy was gone, and the world ended for the first time. Oh, God. That's when her twin brother... Yeah, twin brother. That's where her twin brother died. Charlie was standing outside her own dorm room, almost without knowing how she had gotten there. Slowly, she pulled her keys from her pocket and let herself into the room. The lights were off. Jessica was still in class. Charlie shut the door behind her, checking the lock twice, and leaned back against it. She took a deep breath. It's over now. She straightened decisively and snapped on the overhead light, filling in the room with a harsh illumination. The clock beside the bed told Charlie that she still had a little under an hour before John arrived, time to work on her project. Charlie and Jessica had divided the room with a piece of masking tape after their first week of living together. That's kind of bogus. Jessica suggested it jokingly, said that she'd seen it before in the movie, but Charlie had grinned and helped her measure the room. She knew Jessica was desperate to keep Charlie's mess off of her side, the result of a bedroom that looked like a before and after. Picture advertising either a cleaning service or a nuclear weapon, depending on whose side you looked at first. Charlie's desk was there On Charlie's desk, there was a pillowcase draped over two indistinct shapes. She went to... I thought it said her desk was a pillowcase. She went to her desk and removed it, folding it carefully and placing it on her chair. She looked at her project. Hello, she said softly. Two mechanical faces were held upright on the metal structures attached to a length of board. Their features were indistinct, like old statues worn away by rain, or new clay not fully yet sculpted. They were made of malleable plastic, and where the backs of their heads ought to be, there were instead networks of casings, microchips, and wires. Charlie bent down toward them, looking over every millimeter of her design, making sure everything was as she left it. She flipped a small black switch, and the little lights blinked. Tiny cooling fans began to whir. Oh snap, she's turning something on. They didn't move right away, but there was a change. The vague features took on a sense of purpose. Their blind eyes didn't turn to Charlie. They looked only at each other. You, said the first. Its lips moved to shape the syllable, but never parted. They weren't made to open. I, said the second, making the same soft, constrained movement. You are. Am I? Said the second. You are, am I? Said the second. Okay. Just trying to see if there's no secret code. Anyway, Charlie watched her hand pressed over her mouth. She held her breath, afraid of disturbing them. She waited, but they had apparently finished, and were now simply looking at each other. They can't see, Charlie reminded herself. Yeah, scared of the robots now. She turned them off and pulled the board around so she could peer into their backs. She reached the inside and adjusted a wire. A key slid into the lock of the door, and Charlie startled at the sound. She snatched the pillowcase and threw it over the faces as Jessica entered the room. Jessica paused in the doorway with a grin. What was that? She asked. What? Charlie said innocently. Come on. I know you were working on that thing you never let me see. She dropped her backpack on the floor and then flopped dramatically back on the bed. Anyways, I'm exhausted, she announced. Charlie laughed and Jessica sat up. Come talk to me. What's up with you and John? Uh-oh. Trying to get her and John together. Charlie sat down in her bed across from Jessica. Despite their different lifestyles, she liked living with the other girl. Jessica was warm, bright, and while her ease as she went about the world still intimidated Charlie a little. Now she felt a little a part of it. Maybe being Jessica's friend meant absorbing some of her confidence. I haven't seen him yet. I have to leave, and she peered over Jessica's shoulders at the clock. 15 minutes. Are you excited? Jessica asked. Charlie shrugged. I think so. Jessica laughed. You're not sure? I'm excited, Charlie admitted. Oh, snap. It's just been a long time. Not that long, Jessica pointed out. Then she looked thoughtful. I guess it sort of has been, though. Everything is so different since the last time we saw him. Charlie cleared her throat. So you really want to see my product, she asked, surprising herself. Yes, Jessica declared, springing up from the bed. She followed Charlie to her desk, her pillowcase desk. Charlie switched on the power, then flung off the pillowcase like a magician. Jessica gasped and took an involuntary step back. What is it? She asked, her voice cautious. They're all scared. But before Charlie could answer, the first face spoke. Me. You, the other replied, and they both fell silent again. Charlie looked at Jessica. Her friend had a pinched expression like she was holding something tightly inside. The second face said. Charlie hurried to switch them off. Why do you have that look on your face? Jessica took a deep breath and smiled at her. I just haven't had lunch yet. No, she's scared! But something lingered in her eyes. Yeah, memories! Jessica watched as Charlie replaced the pillowcase lovingly over their faces, as if she were tucking a child into bed. She looked uncomfortably around the room. Charlie's half was a disaster. Clothes and books were strewn everywhere, but there was also the wires and the computer parts, tools, screws, and pieces of plastic and metal Jessica didn't recognize, all jumbled up together. It was just a mess, a chaotic tangle where you could lose anything or hide anything, she realized. With a pang of guilt at the thought, Jessica turned her attention to the book. Back at Charlie! What are you programming them to do? she asked, and Charlie smiled proudly. I'm not exactly programming them to do anything. I'm helping them learn on their own. Right. Of course, obviously, Jessica said slowly. As she did, something caught her eye. A pair of shiny plastic eyes and a long, floppy ears were peering out from a pile of dirty laundry. Hey, I never noticed you brought Theodore, your little robo-rabbit. Oh, yeah, Theodore from the last book, the little Bonnie Beta. Your little robo-rabbit, she exclaimed. Please do I remember the name of Charlie's childhood toy. Before Charlie could respond, she picked the stuffed animal up by the ears and came away with only his head. Oh. Jessica let out a shriek and dropped it, clapping a hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, Charlie said hastily, grabbing the rabbit's head off the floor. I took him apart to study. I'm using some of the parts in my project. She gestured at the thing on her desk. Oh, Jessica said, trying to hide her dismay. She glanced around the room, and suddenly she realized that the rabbit's parts were everywhere. His cotton ball tail was on Charlie's pillow, and a leg had hung off the lamp above her desk. His torso lay in the corner, almost out of sight, ripped open savagely. Christ! Jessica looked at her friend's round, cheerful face and frizzy, shoulder-length brown hair. Jessica closed her eyes for a long moment. Oh, Charlie, what is wrong with you? Jessica? Yeah, there's something wrong with Charlie, bro. The girl's eyes were closed, her expression pained. Jessica. This time she opened her eyes and gave Charlie a sudden bright smile, turning on cheer like a faucet. It was disconcerting, but Charlie had gotten used to it. Jessica blinked hard like she was resetting her brain. So you're nervous about seeing John, she asked. Charlie thought for a moment. Oh, man. They are freaked out. No, I mean, why should I be? It's just John, right? Charlie tried to laugh, but gave up. Jessica, I don't know what to talk about, she burst out suddenly. What do you mean? I don't know what to talk about with him, Charlie said. If we don't have something to talk about, then we'll just start talking about what happened last year, and I can't. Right. Jessica looked thoughtful. Maybe go and bring it up, she offered. Charlie sighed, glancing back at her covered experiment with longing. Of course he will. Yeah, he will. Bet. It's all we have in common. She sat down heavily on her bed and slumped over. Charlie, you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, Jessica said gently. You can always just cancel on him. That's bogus. But I don't think John's going to put you on the spot. He cares about you. I doubt what happened to him in Hurricane is what is on his mind. What does that mean? I just mean, Jessica gingerly pushed aside a pile of laundry and sat next to Charlie, placing a hand on her knee. I just mean that maybe it's time that you both move past that. I think that John is trying to. Charlie looked away and stared fixedly at Theodore's head, face down on the floor. You mean, get over it? How do I even begin? Jessica's voice softened. This can't be your whole life anymore. I know, Charlie sighed. She decided to change the subject. How was your class, anyway? Charlie wiped her eyes, hoping Jessica would take the hint. Awesome! Jessica stood and stretched, bending over to touch her toes, incidentally giving Charlie a chance to compose herself. When Jessica stood again, she was smiling brilliantly, back in character. Did you know that the corpses could be preserved in peat bogs like mummies? That's probably not a thing to say! Charlie wrinkled her nose. I do now. So, is that what you're gonna do when you graduate? Crawl around in the peat bogs looking for bodies? Maybe. I'll get you a hazmat suit for a graduation gift, Charlie joked. She looked at her watch. Time to go. Wish me luck. Charlie brushed her hair back with her hands, peering into a mirror that hung in the back of the door. I feel like a mess. You look great. Jessica gave her an encouraging nod. I've been doing sit-ups, Charlie said awkwardly. Huh? Forget it. Why has she been doing sit-ups? Anyway, forget it. Charlie grabbed her backpack and headed out for the door. Go knock his socks off, Jessica called as Charlie left. I don't even know what that means, Charlie replied, letting the door swing closed before she finished speaking. Charlie spotted him as she approached the main entrance to the campus. Charlie was leaning on a wall, reading a book. His brown hair was messy as ever. He was wearing a blue t-shirt and jeans, dressing more casually than the last time she'd seen him. John! She called out, reluctance falling away as soon as she saw him. He put away his book, grinning wildly, and hurried over to her. Oh snap, things are about to get crazy, isn't it, guys? Hey, Charlie, he said. They stood there awkwardly. Then Charlie extended her arms to hug him. He held her tightly for a moment, then abruptly released her. You got taller, she said accusingly, and he laughed. I did, he admitted. He gave her a searching look. You look exactly the same, though. I mean, he said with a puzzled smile. I cut my hair, Charlie said in a mock outrage. She ran her fingers through it, demonstrating. Oh yeah, he said. I like it. I just mean the same girl, remember. I've been doing sit-ups. She is not doing this well. I've been doing sit-ups, Charlie said with rising panic. Huh? John gave her a confused look. Never mind, are you hungry? Charlie asked. I have about an hour before my next class. We could get a burger. There's a dining hall not far from here. Yeah, that would be great, John said. Charlie pointed across the quad. That way, come on. So what are you doing here, Charlie asked, as they sat down with their trays. Sorry, she added. Did that sound rude? Not rude at all, although I would have also accepted John. To what circumstance do I owe the pleasure of this delightful reunion? Yeah, that sounds like me, Charlie said dryly. But seriously, what are you doing here? Got a job. In St. George. Why? In Hurricane, actually, he said his voice self-consciously casual. Are you in school somewhere, Charlie asked. John blushed, looking down at his plate for a moment. I was going to, but it's a lot of money to read books when a library card is free, you know. My cousin got me a job in construction, and I'm working on my writing when I can. I figured even if I'm going to be an artist, I don't have to be a starving one. True that. He took an illustrated bite of his hamburger, and Charlie grinned. So why here? She insisted. He held up a finger and finished chewing. The storm, he said. Charlie nodded. The storm had hit Hurricane before Charlie came to St. George, and people talked about it in capital letters. The storm. It wasn't the worst area It wasn't the worst area that had ever seen, but it was close. A tornado had risen up from somewhere and ripped through the whole towns, razing one house to the ground with a sinister precision, while leaving the other one next to it untouched. There hadn't been much damage in St. George, but Hurricane had seen real destruction. How bad was it? Charlie asked, keeping her tone light. You haven't been? John said incredulously. Uh-oh. And it was Charlie's turn to look awkwardly aware. I knew it. That's why I said, uh-oh. She shook her head. It's bad in places, he said. Mostly on the outskirts of town. Charlie, I assumed you've been... He bit his lip. What? Something about his expression was worried her. Uh-oh, was worrying her. Your dad's house. It was one of the ones that got... Oh. Dang! One of her dad's house got hit. It was one of the ones that got hit. Oh, something leading was growing from Charlie's chest. I didn't know. You really didn't even go back to check. I didn't think of it, Charlie said. That's not true. She thought 1,000 times of going back to her father's house, but it never occurred to her that the house might have been hit by a storm. In her mind, it was impregnable, unchanging. It would always be there, just as her father had left it. She closed her eyes and pictured it. The front steps sagged in disrepair, but the house itself stood like a fortress protecting what was inside. Is it gone? Charlie asked, the words faint. No, it's still there, just damaged. I don't know how much. I just drove by, but I didn't think I should go there without you. This is their idea of a date, looking at dead robots? Charlie nodded, only half listening. She felt far away. She could see John, hear him, but there was a layer of something between them. Between her and everything else, and everything but the house itself. I would have thought, didn't your aunt tell you what happened? I have to get back to class, Charlie said. It's that way. She gestured vaguely. Charlie, have you been okay? She didn't look at him. He placed his hand over hers. She still couldn't look up. She didn't want him to see her face. Okay, she repeated, and then slipped her hand out from under his and shrugged her shoulders up and down like she was trying to get something off her back. I had my birthday, she offered, and finally leveled her gaze to meet his. I'm sorry you missed it. I'm sorry I missed it, wow. I'm sorry I missed it, John said. No, that's not. She tipped her head from side to side as if she could level out her thoughts, too. Do you remember how I had a twin? What? John sounded puzzled. Of course I do. I'm sorry, Charlie. Is that what you meant about your birthday? She nodded, making tiny motions. John held out his hand again, and she took it. She could feel his pulse through his thumb. Ever since we left Hurricane, you know how twins are supposed to be connected, have some kind of special bond? Sure, he said. Ever since we left, I found out he was real. I felt like he was there with me. I know he's not. He's dead. But for that whole year, I didn't feel alone anymore. Charlie, John's hand tightened on hers. You know you're not alone. No, I mean really not alone. Like I have another self. Someone who's a part of me and is always with me. I've had these feelings before, but they came and went, and I didn't pay much attention to them. I didn't know they meant something. Then when I learned the truth and these memories started coming back to me, John, I feel whole in a way. So you're not whole if you're there. You're like broken in a way, and putting yourself back together would be going back to Hurricane? Sorry, I tried to make that work. Coming back to me, John, I feel whole in a way I don't even know how to describe. Her eyes began to fill with tears, and she pulled her hand back to brush them away. Hey, he said softly, it's okay. That's great, Charlie. I'm glad you have that. No, that's the thing, I don't! She met his eyes, desperate for him to understand what she was awkwardly trying to say. He's disappeared. That sense of completeness is gone. What? It happened on my birthday. I woke up and I just felt... She sighed, searching. There wasn't a word for it. Alone? Incomplete. She took a deep breath, pulling herself back together. But the thing is, it's not just loss. It's just like he's trapped somewhere. I have these dreams where I can feel him on the other side of something, like he's close to me, but he's stuck somewhere. Like he's in a box, or I'm in a box. I can't tell. John stared at her, momentarily speechless. Before he could figure out what to say, he's gonna call her crazy, and this day finna be short. Charlie stood abruptly. I need to leave. Are you sure? You haven't eaten. Dang. Well, you need to eat and keep your strength up. I'm sorry, she broke off. John, it's so good to see you. Tell me what reference I just made if you made it this far. I'm sorry, she broke off. John, it's so good to see you. She hesitated, then turned to walk away, possibly for good. She knew she disappointed him. Charlie, would you like to go out with me tonight? Uh-oh. Someone said it! John's voice sounded stiff, but his eyes were warm. Sure, that'd be great, she said, giving him a half smile. Don't you have to go back to work tomorrow, though? It's only a half an hour away, John said, and he cleared his throat. But I meant, do you want to go out with me? I just said yeah, Charlie repeated, slightly irritated. Uh-oh. John sighed. I meant on a date, Charlie. Oh. Dang. She stared at him for a moment. Right. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Jessica's voice echoed in her head, and yet she realized she was smiling. Yes, a date. Okay, yeah. There's a movie theater in town. She hazarded vaguely recalling that movies were something people did on dates. John nodded vigorously, apparently as lost at sea as she was. Now the question had been asked. Can we have dinner first? Who eats dinner before going to the movies? That gotta eat there. Okay. Can we have dinner first? There's a Thai place down the street. I can meet you there around 8. Yeah, sounds good. Bye. Charlie grabbed her backpack and hurried out the dining room door, realizing as she stepped into the sunshine that she had left him to clean their table. Sorry. As Charlie headed across the quad to her next class, her step grew more purposeful. This was a basic computer science class. Writing code wasn't as exciting as what Dr. Treadwell thought, but Charlie still liked it. It was absorbing detailed work. A single error could ruin everything. Everything? She thought of her impending date. The idea that a single error could ruin everything suddenly carried an awful weight. Charlie hurried up the steps to the building and stopped short as a man blocked her path. It was Clay Burke. Clay Burke, wasn't he the officer? I think so. Hey, Charlie, he smiled, but his eyes were grave. Charlie hadn't seen Hurricane's... Yeah, he's the chief of police. Charlie hadn't seen Hurricane's chief of police, her friend Carlton's father, since the night they escaped Freddy's together. Looking now at his withered face, she felt a rush of fear. Mr. Burke, or Clay, what are you doing here? Charlie, do you have a second? Sorry, something's blocking my way. Mr. Burke, or Clay, what are you doing here? Charlie, do you have a second? He asked. Her heart sped up. Is Carlton okay? Yes, he's fine, Burke assured her. Walk with me. Don't worry about being late. I'll give you a note for class. At least I think an officer of the law has an authority to do that. He winked, but Charlie didn't smile. Something was wrong. Charlie followed him back down to the stairs where there were a dozen feet from the building. Burke stopped and met her gaze as if he were looking for something. Charlie, we found a body. I want you to take a look at it. What? Oh no! They can't end the chapter like this! You want me to look at it? I need you to see it. Me? She said the only thing she could. Why? Does it have something to do with Freddy's? Already did it! I told ya! Okay, let me chill. Me? She said the only thing she could? Why, does it have anything to do with Freddy's? I don't want to tell you anything until you've seen it, Burke said. He started walking. Is it Jess? And Charlie hurried to keep up with his long stride. She followed him to the parking lot just outside the main gate and got into his car without a word. Charlie settled in her seat, a strange dread stirring within her. Clay Burke glanced at her, and she gave a sharp, quick nod. He pulled the door out into the road, and they headed back to Hurricane. Chapter 2, bro, coming tomorrow. Alright, guys, so yeah, that was Chapter 1 of the Twisted Ones, dudes. Dang, son, this is getting spicy, okay? They were just letting Chapter 1 build up, but now it's starting to get spicy and crazy. Now someone's killing people. Alright, anyway, guys, so yeah, if you guys want part 2 of the Twisted Ones read to you guys, like you asked me, make sure you guys give me 500 likes on this video, and if you guys want a Twisted Ones hardcover giveaway, give me 1,000 likes, alright? We can do it. Anyway, guys, I will see you awesome kissers later. This video's running longer than it needs to be. Peace out.